Ladies and gentlemen, what is up, and welcome to today's video, which is all about dropping Dormammu in Alliance Quest Season 4. So if you're a little bit out of the loop, Dormammu is the final boss in Alliance Quest Season 4 on every single map. So having kind of the knowledge of how Dormammu works and also which are the best champions to fight him is quite important going into Alliance Quest Season 4, and hopefully the information provided today will help you become a really sick boss killer. So what we're going to do in this video is we're going to talk about Dormammu and some of his abilities and what you need to be aware of when you're fighting on Dormammu and his playstyle and stuff. And then we're going to look at his link nodes in Alliance Quest and talk about kind of what they do. Spoiler alert, they actually don't do anything. And that's one of the reasons that we kind of waited for a little bit on this video. I wanted to wait for the character to actually be in Alliance Quest to see if he had any sort of like insane node that would change the strategy a bit, but really his nodes don't really impact the character and how you fight him at all. But anyway, let's get it stuck into some of the basics on Dormammu. So the first thing about Dormammu, which is really pivotal in comparison to the previous season of Alliance Quest, is that Dormammu is both immune to bleed and poison, and I think the most important part here is he's immune to bleed. So a lot of characters that were viable for fighting Kang and Venom, that were really strong bleed champions, just are not going to be very good against Dormammu, and that's very important to bear in mind. And also he is immune to poison as well, which means Dr. Voodoo is not really a great option for fighting Dormammu, neither is Ant-Man. So yeah, those are the two things to kind of bear in mind in terms of what he's immune to. Apart from that, the only other thing is his signature ability, which actually isn't active in Alliance Quest. However, it's worth mentioning that his signature ability, which you won't face in Alliance Quest, but if you're ever against him in Alliance War, whenever a buff expires on the opponent, you have a chance to get degeneration, and that is like, that's really bad. There's not really any way you can play around that. So I'm very glad that is disabled in Alliance Quest at the moment, so you don't need to worry about that. And that's pretty much it. When you're fighting Dormammu, like nothing else in terms of his abilities is applicable, providing that you don't get hit. If you get hit by various stuff, his special 1, you're going to get nullified, the special attack 2, you're going to get power drained and power locked, and the special attack 3, you're just going to get wrecked if you get hit by that. And heavy attacks, just do not get hit by his heavy attacks, because you're definitely going to get one shot if you do, in terms of the scale of the Alliance Quest Dormammu. So basically, don't get hit is the strategy there. In terms of which attack you should be baiting on Dormammu, it's always the special 1, and we'll go into some gameplay a little bit later in this video, where we've done some practice duels with some really weak 3-star characters against a rank 4 level 55 Dormammu, so you can kind of see the strategy for baiting the special 1, but that is the plan when you're fighting Dormammu, is you got to be very patient, bait the special 1, and just keep on practicing on that, and eventually you'll get into a really easy loop where it's quite easy to fight him. I don't predict that Dormammu is going to be too much more of a pain than Kang. However, for some newer players, Dormammu, if you're familiar with how Venom plays, where he's always playing very aggressively, always attacking into you, Dormammu has kind of similar animations. So instead of, if he doesn't get the first hit, most AIs and characters, they'll just dash backward and back out. Like, he'll just keep on laying in maybe like 3-4 hits that you need to continually evade. So yeah, very aggressive AI always with Dormammu. So that makes him a little bit challenging if you're not used to fighting some aggressive AIs, but that's just something to keep in mind, and something we'll talk you through a little bit more later in this video. Now, in terms of Alliance Quest, let's just quickly open up map 5 again. This is literally just launched about kind of 15-20 minutes ago now, just to cover his nodes and what they mean, because I know a couple of people will have some questions about what certain stuff means. So this is on map 5. He just has a load of health, load of additional attack, and also has something called Dimensional Anchor. So this is actually the ability that activates via his special 3 if he's imbued, and basically means that he continues to gain like dark dimensional power, and his special 3 will also heal him, which, providing you don't get hit, just mean absolutely nothing. Like, they honestly have no effect on the fight at all, so you don't need to worry about it, providing you're not getting hit by stuff. So yeah, that isn't really much of a problem. And then you also have heal blocks, so regeneration chance, champions. Much like on every Alliance Quest boss, they're just not really going to work. Well, they aren't flat out going to work because of the heal block. And then you have Limber, so you have a limited amount of stuns on Dormammu. They're going to be at their max duration there, so that's something interesting to bear in mind. But again, with a similar strategy of kind of just trying to bait and evade the special one, it really isn't much of a problem. Now, anyway, now that we've talked about the link nodes and what Dormammu does, and hopefully you've got a fairly good idea of how to fight him, now let's talk about some of the best champions and why they're so good. So first off is Star-Lord. In terms of my ranking, he would be #1, just because he will get the fight done so incredibly quickly. Star-Lord, very, very powerful ramp-up champion. So in terms of like dropping Dormammu as quickly and efficiently as possible, Star-Lord, he's a bit of a go-to, still a crazy god tier champion, so great option for that. Captain World War II, or the classic version of Captain America, really doesn't matter which either one, but the increased block proficiency means that you can potentially get into the Special 2 and just completely block all of the damage there. The Special 2 fires off 3 projectiles, so you need to be a little bit wary of that, but you'll just be able to like block through that with Captain America. Granted, in comparison to Star-Lord, the damage on Captain America is significantly less, so on those higher prestige days you might not be able to get Dormammu down in a single try, but providing you're playing fairly decently, like, you're going to have a really, really good matchup against Dormammu there. Really valuable champion. Now, #3, I think this is going to be a pretty amazing option. I've got him in my team at the moment, but Hulk is a beast when it comes to fighting Dormammu, just because like Hulk has some really, really nice base damage, and as his health goes down, so if you get clipped at all, his damage is just going to go up and up and up. So if you want to do this strategy on Hulk, if you're a fairly confident player, you can get him to the Special 2 attack a couple of times, kind of block that, like eat up a little bit of damage. That's going to increase your attack even more, and then you can just absolutely wreck Dormammu. So that's a little bit of a strategy there. Maybe not one that I'd advocate. Only take damage if you need to on Hulk. But I think Hulk has all the necessary firepower and damage to kill Dormammu kind of in the 3-minute time that you're given. Now, the next option I've got is Hood. Now, Hood is a very interesting character, especially versus Dormammu, because there's this interaction. Whenever Hood uses his Special 2, it triggers his invisibility for, I believe it's 8 seconds. And while Hood is invisible, projectiles actually have a 90% chance to miss. So you can play this strategy with Hood, where you can get him up to his Special 2, and if you tie that in well with your Special 2, you can automatically evade pretty much all of the projectile attacks. It's a good idea to be blocking, though, just in case you do get clipped by one, but you have a very, very high chance to auto-evade those. Also, Hood has some pretty decent damage output, is going to be healing a little, but actually he's not going to be healing, it's a heal block node. So yeah, that's pretty much the interaction there, but it's very, very valuable to be able to auto-evade that stuff. So if you want to go ham, Hood's a pretty decent option for that. Quake has some really, really cool damage output, has additional block as well, which is incredibly valuable. However, Quake, her strategy, you know, if you want to play her a little bit interestingly, is to go back and charge up your heavy attack, and against like a really, really aggressive opponent like Dormammu, because again, he's always going to be coming in, it's a little bit risky at times to do that, but Quake is still a viable option, and a lot of people, you know, are going to take up Quake as one of their first science characters for prestige. So if you want to use her, you can probably use her to drop Dormammu with kind of in the 3-minute time period. She should have enough damage output for that, so that's a use there. On the next up, we have Storm. Storm is just a really, really hard-hitting champion, has a very, very nice stun on her Special 1 and Special 2 as well. I think for max damage you probably want to keep to the Special 2s, but she's a great option, doesn't rely again on bleeding or poisoning the opponent, which is a huge advantage to the character in the Dormammu matchup. So yeah, Storm's a pretty decent option there. And then you have Scarlet Witch. Scarlet Witch is, she's just a beast in pretty much every scenario. Also, if you're doing like map 6 as well, she's going to be a very, very efficient and good Hyperion killer. So Scarlet Witch is just a beast for dropping Dormammu. You can get the stun, you get the power lock, clip a little bit of his power as well. So yeah, Scarlet Witch, still a really, really great option. You also have the classic version of Daredevil. So if you get Daredevil up to signature level 99, or if you've got him like above 40, you have a really, really good chance to evade automatically evade projectile attacks. So again, that's very, very good at dealing with Dormammu's special 2 ability. So yeah, Daredevil is a really great option for that. Next up, we have Yellow Jacket. Yellow Jacket just has some really solid damage output. He also has the class advantage against Dormammu. Also has a stun on his special 1 and special 2 when the power stings expire. If they do expire, but if you're playing very aggressively, if you're continuing to bait that special 1, you're just going to turn those power stings into even more damage in the majority of scenarios. So yeah, Yellow Jacket, really decent option for dropping Dormammu in this season. I think, especially if you have a 5-star Yellow Jacket, you're going to have a very, very good time dealing with Dormammu. And then finally, you have Hyperion. Now, Hyperion isn't the best option. I've added him in there, even though he has the class disadvantage. Like, he doesn't rely on bleed. He has Incinerate, a really nice stun on his special 2. And the damage on Hyperion is still, like, absolutely insane. Like, it's bonkers damage for this character. So I'd say Hyperion, while he doesn't have the class advantage, there are a lot of people that will want to take him to Alliance Quest for the poison lanes. So if you have him, you can probably still drop a Dormammu with him quite easily. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is it for the 10 characters who I think are going to excel the most. Again, there are some other, like, honorable mentions. I think, like, Cyclops is a fairly decent option. I think maybe 4 Jane Foster isn't too bad. Doctor Strange, Iron Fist, Rogue is also fairly decent. But these are my top 10 that I'd go for. I think between these 10 characters, you just have like a variety of different options based on your roster. So hopefully you're going to find one of these that, you know, is really going to excel and synergize well with your kind of playstyle there. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, now that we've covered Dormammu, some of the best characters, let's go through a couple of fights with Dormammu and talk about the strategy and how to deal with this opponent. So let's head on to that. So first up, we have the matchup with the 3-star Star-Lord versus the rank 4 Dormammu. Now again, it's a little bit hard to actually practice against Dormammu in duels just because pretty much everybody with Dormammu has Mystic Dispersion. So it gets a little bit tricky here, but as you can see, the strategy is just wait for him to kind of swipe up and erupt that volcano and then just immediately go in after that. That's kind of the plan and pattern that you just want to keep on getting into. Just wait till he erupts that and then hit back in as soon as literally he's kind of like brought his hands up, and you should be able to quite easily get in your combo there. Again, you got to be very, very careful for that heavy attack, as that will really, really wreck you if you get hit by that. But it's a pretty easy pattern to get into once you get used to fighting Dormammu. And again, if you do have Star-Lord, like, he's going to be your best and most efficient option for dropping him. Now, the next gameplay showcase is actually a bit more of a drawn-out one with a 3-star version of Hood. Now, Hood, he isn't really too available as a 4-star at the moment. He's not in the crystals yet, but give it another, I think it's like 3 weeks till he comes to the crystals, so he's going to become a little bit more common in the future, but I think he's a really, really decent option. Again, we're going with a similar strategy most of the time of baiting the special 1, but it's kind of just tying in well when we have our special 2 and when we can push him to his special 2 to have that invisibility, because once he fires it off, as you can see, the majority of these miss. We actually do get hit by 1 accidentally, so I should have been blocking there. But mistakes were made, and thus lessons were learned. But aside from that, it's just bait the special 1, and you know, when you do have that opportunity just to attack into him, then you can really go for it with the special 2, especially combined with the invisibility. And also Hood, you know, does have that kind of fail-safe option of if you accidentally do push Dormammu to his special 2, you can just swipe back, you can go invisible, and then you can evade the special 2 that way. So that's a bit of an interesting way to deal with him. He's probably not the most efficient in terms of damage out, but if you look at the amount of hits, you know, Hood versus Star-Lord, it's Hood ends up, I believe it's like 108 hits total, so it is a little bit more, but that's what you kind of sacrifice in terms of damage to get that utility. And if you don't have a Star-Lord, like, he's a pretty fun option to use as well. I think as well, simultaneously, like when it comes to map 6 for both Hyperion and also Dormammu, Hood and Scarlet Witch are going to be some of the go-to boss killers there, just because they deal with both of the matchups so incredibly efficiently. Like Hyperion's power gain, Hood can kind of preemptively nullify that with the debuff that he's placing on the opponent whenever he crits. So yeah, just some really great matchups across the new season of Alliance Quest for both Hood and also Scarlet Witch, so I'm pretty pleased for them. But anyway, as you can see, we're going for the fairly standard tactic here. I think we accidentally pushed him to the special 2 when our invisibility is off cooldown. I don't believe you can fully evade a special 2, but as you can see there, we actually partially evaded it just by swiping back to avoid kind of the last meteor hit on us. So yeah, it wasn't too bad. So a huge shout out to probably the best dual target for Dormammu out there, which is Daniel Ramjon at the moment. So if you want a little bit of practice, he's definitely the guy to go for. He has the least amount of points as well in Mystic Dispersion. But Daniel, if you completely want to remove all your points in Mystic Dispersion, if you're watching this video, I think the community would, we'd greatly appreciate that. But I think he only has like 1 or 2 points in it, so it isn't too hard to deal with. So this is again Hulk slaying Dormammu. Hulk is such a great option in terms of his damage output, although we do fluff up a little bit here. I should have maybe pushed the special 2 toward the start of the fight if I wanted to kind of get the most damage out of Hulk, but we're getting into a pretty good rotation here. However, there's just one point where I decide to start pushing for the special 2, and it doesn't go so well, as you are going to see very shortly. So let's just evade that special 1 again. It's quite, like, Dormammu is one of those characters, just when you get into the rhythm of fighting him and evading that special 1 again and again and again, that he just becomes, like, quite easy to deal with. I wouldn't say, like, completely face roll, because it does take a little bit of getting into, but, it's gonna feel good once you get a little bit more adjusted to this character. So here, we baited the special 2 out, took a little bit of damage. Again, this has given us probably like a 20-30% damage increase, because Hulk, again, scales up so incredibly well for the amount of damage he takes. So yeah, if you're making a few mistakes here and there, he's a really, really good option as a boss killer. His stun won't come too much in handy with his special attacks. He also does have that just because of Limber. We went for the gamble there on the special 2 because there was a good chance it was either going to crit or we were going to stun the opponent, but it didn't pay off. However, luckily we managed to survive that and get Dormammu down, so that was fairly lucky there. So, ladies and gentlemen, hopefully this video taught you everything you need to know about how to, like, properly mess up Dormammu in this season of Alliance Quest. If you found it helpful, if you enjoyed it, feel free to smash that like button. That'd be greatly appreciated. Apart from that, thank you for watching, take care, and I hope that you have an absolutely fantastic day.